morning.
Morning. Good morning. Good morning.
This is where Wisconsin wakes up. It's Daybreak with Brian Noonan and Jamie Martinson. Here are your hosts, Brian and Jamie.
6:06 right now. Good morning and happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Civic Media Network. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. Glad you are here. We'd like to hear from you throughout the morning. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. I'm just putting out a blanket warning to the world. If anybody steals this weekend with some sort of horrible global event, I will be very, very angry on Monday. But right
weekend,
now,
that's all we're asking for, Brian.
Yeah,
One full weekend.
just a weekend. We'll keep monitoring what's happening now.
Sure.
What's happening now is not going to end. Okay, that's fine. But as I look forward to 9:03 when we are done and the weekend begins, which I know if you're just getting up and leaving for work and you're not going to be done till 5 or 6, you're like, you lazy sack. No, trust me. It's been a week for all of us. But yeah, I will tease this. If you can stick with us for the news and the politics and all the great guests and conversation that we have, we're going to end with some fun. We have it's Friday, so Dairyland Diaries will be here. And Jamie, you will appreciate this. You know, this is International Women's Month.
It is.
It is. All the Dairyland Diaries, female-centric.
Ooh, I love it.
That's
Very
right.
nicely done.
The ladies
Nicely
getting
done.
it done in Dairyland Diaries. That's at the end of the show. We're going to talk about pie. But before that, we have to unfortunately turn our attention to Iran and get some updates, some headlines as we do every morning. Tehran came under intense bombardment overnight after Israel said it launched another wave of strikes targeting the Iranian capital. The strikes have damaged more than 3,000 homes across Iran, and the Iranian Red Crescent Society said that. CNN is unable to verify those figures, so, but we know there has been a lot of damage. No matter what the actual number is, there's been a lot of damage.
I mean, all you have to do is watch the video circulating from the area on social media to see the destruction that's actually happening throughout the Middle East. Also in headlines this morning, Israeli assault on Beirut as fresh strikes have hit the Lebanese capital hours after Israel said it carried out a broad-scale wave of strikes overnight that was targeted at Hezbollah sites, I should say, in the city. And Israeli military is warning to evacuate almost all of southern Beirut, causing lots of panic last evening as people fled parts of the Lebanese capital.
And the three-man council running the country the country of Iran is preparing to introduce a new supreme leader. That while the U.S. president, you know who he is, says he wants a say in the matter. Analysts say, it's not that simple.
I have thoughts on that.
Well.
As to why the president of the United States, after basically attacking Iran, and I get, again, good reason to do so. I understand that Iran has been a problem for multiple years. I don't believe there was an imminent threat to the United States, but we know Iran has been a problem for many years. I don't understand why the president of the United States would think he gets to weigh in on that decision now.
Because he thinks he actually thinks he rules the world, and his is the most important opinion. That leads us to the next headline that the president has said. I want you to listen to this to see if this is a man who cares about us as American citizens. Trump said soaring gas prices in the U.S. do not bother him. Even as the war disrupts global energy supplies, the U.S. has given India a 30-day waiver to purchase Russian oil because stuff has been stranded at sea. Yes, of course the gas prices don't bother him. He doesn't drive. We pay for his gas. So we're paying for our gas. We pay for his gas. And he doesn't ride around in a Hyundai. He's got the what do they call it? The Beast?
The Beast,
The Beast. And I'm sure that's getting very low MPGs.
Well, here's the other thing that I would say about this. The president doesn't actually get in vehicles all that often. He gets in jets quite frequently. He gets in
Right.
planes quite frequently, but we're also paying for the jet fuel or the gas to power his planes to go from Washington to Florida and Florida to Washington.
This
So,
is truly a Marie Antoinette analogy. He
Yeah.
does really not have any idea what happens to regular
No.
American citizens and the pain that this causes all of us for really no apparent reason.
the thing that bothers me, I think, the most, and let's be honest, we see this with a lot of politicians, not just the president. However, he seems to be the best case scenario, is when they can't actually put themselves in real people's shoes and have no idea what real people pay for anything because they can't actually bring themselves down to the real type person, the little people type of level.
That's
of
because for
life.
him, real people have always been servants or service workers or employees that had to answer to him and kiss his behind. So he doesn't. To him, real people are below him.
Yeah. Which is the unfortunate part, considering he serves those real people who he sees as below him. In other headlines, our Iranian ballistic missile attacks have sharply reduced the U.S. Central Command, sharply reduced, according to the U.S. Central Command. Iran said that it has launched a hybrid drone and missile attack against Israel overnight. Also, war in Iran has caused a significant increase in demand for Russian energy products, Brian.
Yep.
That's according to the Kremlin. That came a day after the U.S. gave India a 30-day waiver to purchase Russian oil that's currently stranded at sea as this conflict in the Middle East disrupts the energy markets. But that's okay. The president doesn't care about how much you're paying for gas. It's not important right now.
And finally, our last headline from Iran, U.S.-Israeli strikes have killed more than 1,200 people in Iran and more than 120 in Lebanon. That according to each country's state media. So that's where we stand. I would say good news that we haven't suffered any more American casualties, but that does not lessen the tragedy of the 6 American service members that have been killed so far. And we're going to talk about how the president and the Secretary of Defense address those losses later in the show. But we buried the lead because some big news coming out yesterday. I begged us to play Ding Dong the Witch is Dead this morning, but no one would do it. I
won't do it.
I know you won't do it. I don't blame you. That's why I asked for a consensus amongst the group. But the president now, the president fired Kristi Noem, but did he really? But either way, Kristi Noem is no longer Secretary of Homeland Security. She is out. She found out during lunch, and then she had to go make a speech. He doesn't care about anybody. But this is the thing, Jamie, and I'd like to get your opinion on this. So we'll give you that's really the fact of the story. He fired her. She's not head of Homeland Security. He is putting forward Markwayne Mullin, and we'll get more into Markwayne Mullin at the beginning of the next hour because I'm going to use this analogy again, and if you're eating your breakfast, push it aside for a second. Replacing Kristi Noem with Markwayne Mullin is like pooping your pants and running home to change your shirt. It's not, you're really not taking care of the problem.
No, you're not.
But Kristi is out, but she has been given another job. Like if you fired me, you're not going to give me another job at the. He never fires people completely because that would show that he made a mistake. So this is optics. This is all right, Kristi. You got caught. You got caught showing your lack of leadership. You got caught because you spent $220 million on a company that had only been incorporated 8 days before to do a series of commercials where you are the star. You were horrible in front of the Senate, and you made me look bad. Yeah. So you got to go. But I know that you love me. I know you love me, and you want only the right people to be able to vote. So I'm going to put you in a Marvel movie. I'm going to put you in the Shield of Americas. I'm like, wait a minute. What? Is Captain America part of this new thing?
It's very strange.
The whole thing is bizarre.
It's a security initiative in the Western Hemisphere, and who isn't thinking this morning that Kristi Noem may be now in charge of Venezuela with this new role? I mean, that's kind of what it feels like is happening, because part of her responsibilities will be keeping track of what's happening in the southern hemisphere of the world as well. So who knows where she's actually going to end up or what's actually going to happen. But really, this comes down to what the White House saw as optics, because several officials were frustrated with not only the answers that she gave in front of the Senate and the House this week in those committee hearings, but they were also frustrated with some of the management issues at DHS, including the decision to pause TSA pre-check and then unpause it and then pause it again and then unpause it and eventually just whatever happened. Hopefully we're getting through the airports during this funding lapse, okay? Republican senators had recently begun questioning the leadership during those hearings. They had concerns about how she's handled contracts for the ad campaign, and some officials at DHS said that the removal had been expected for the last few weeks. There was internal tensions and complaints about how the department under Kristi Noem was being managed. And now here's the very interesting part about this story too, Brian. Corey Lewandowski, remember that name way back when? That's
sure, he was her
way back
her
machine,
friend with
right?
benefits allegedly in the plane.
Yes. Well, he is her top advisor and longtime ally. That's what we're calling the friends with benefits now. He is also expected to leave DHS. And so you're going to have the two of them out. Maybe they can go run this new force, the Shield of Americas together.
Shield of Americas.
I mean, she does like to dress up a lot to do her job, so maybe we'll have a new uniform for this as well that she can.
She's going
to
come out dressed like Muammar Gaddafi or something, with the big epaulets and the sunglasses. But you know, it's for everybody who's celebrating this. It's good, but we're going to get into the devil you know versus the devil you don't, and if you're not familiar with Markwayne Mullin, which that's a mouthful. That's a lot of name.
It's hard to it's hard to just let it roll off the tongue quickly. Yes.
But if you're not familiar with him, you will be. We will acquaint you more with Markwayne Mullin coming up, and I don't foresee happier days. No,
I don't feel better about what's happening at all. And let's be realistic. DHS isn't just about border security. This is the agency that also oversees airport screening, cybersecurity, disaster relief through FEMA, and a whole lot more. So when you have this type of leadership at the very top, it's going to affect real operations that can impact all of us on a daily basis, even if we don't understand how it's impacting us. And that's what I think is scary, because when we get into the conversation about Markwayne, you're going to see quickly that he doesn't have any real experience either, like many in this administration, to lead this department.
Mark from Prairie du Sac texts in basically the same thing. Another unqualified person in charge of Homeland Security. He does have the one qualification, though, Jamie, that you really need to advance in this administration. He backs Trump no matter what. He is just like Kristi Noem and everybody else. He is a pit bull. He just, well, you know, nothing you want in a more diplomatic and managerial role than a guy who fights in a cage.
He's definitely not as eloquent of a speaker either, and we'll hear some clips from him later this morning. It's 6:19 right now. You are listening to Daybreak. I am Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. And when we come back, 3 towns in Wisconsin call for a moratorium on data centers. We'll get to it on the Civic Media Network.
Across the state of Wisconsin, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie is back.
6:22 right now. Thank you so much for joining us. A little bit of weather headed our way. In fact, in the Madison area, we're going to see some heavy rain through a good portion of the morning and other parts of the state as well. So much warmer temperatures over the next few days. Of course, we'll keep you updated on all of that. You are listening to Daybreak. This is the Civic Media Network. I'm Jamie Martinson.
And good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. Yeah, the springtime storms rolling in this weekend. It's a little nerve-wracking, but it's also a
Record
sign that,
temperatures.
okay, it's not going to be snowfall for
Yeah,
now.
don't get too
Today,
comfortable, though,
today
folks.
it's not going to be snowfall. Just qualifying that. I one text really quick before we move on.
Sure.
We were talking about the Shield of America, and Mark from Prairie du Sac texts in more like Hail Hydra. And if you didn't think of that the minute you heard Shield of the Americas, I don't even want to know you. I don't want to know how you didn't make the Avengers connection when you heard Shield. But anyway, data centers are the bane of some people's existence. We talk about them all the time. We talk about sweetheart deals secret deals they may or may not have made with certain towns. Well, now 3 Manitowoc County towns, 2 creeks, 2 rivers, and only 1 Mishicot. Mishicot. Only 1 Mishicot. There's not 2 Mishicots.
There is not 2 Mishicots.
All right. Well, good. One is plenty. Mishicot's doing it all by themselves. Anyway, 2 creeks, 2 rivers, and Mishicot are pushing for 1-year moratoriums on new data center developments. Just saying, hey, let's pump the brakes. The town boards passed these resolutions asking the county to pause permits and construction for any new data projects not already approved. So,
yeah.
At some point, it's good to see, right? You got to wait. Let's see the ones that are approved and the developed. So let's see how that actually affects us before you keep giving permits.
Right. And with what is being asked by these cities, they would have the option to extend that moratorium an additional 6 months if they find that there needs to be more research. But this is really coming after a Texas-based company called Cloverleaf Infrastructure approached property owners in the area with offers to buy land for a possible project. Cloverleaf, if you don't remember seeing them in the news, they previously helped launch a very controversial data center campus proposal in Port Washington.
Right.
And they had approached landowners in Greenleaf in Brown County, even though that project was abandoned after there was a ton of community pushback in the Port Washington area. Now, a company spokesperson for Cloverleaf says that they're going to continue to evaluate potential data center sites in Northeast Wisconsin. There's no specific locations right now chosen, though, in Manitowoc County. Wisconsin is currently seeing a surge in this development. Obviously, we've seen major projects in Mount Pleasant by Microsoft and also Meta in Beaver Dam. A lot of local leaders are saying that the Manitowoc County area may be attractive because it's close to the Point Beach nuclear power plant, and that can provide large amounts of electricity that the data centers require. Now, when it comes to this moratorium, town officials say residents are obviously concerned about losing farmland, Brian. They're also concerned about changing the rural character of the communities. And we're talking hundreds of acres of farmland that could be taken out of production by this particular data center. So I think this moratorium is good because it just gives the county time to stop, breathe, pause everything that's happening, study the environmental impact, the economic impacts, develop some sort of zoning rules, which I think Wisconsin's going to probably have to have some sort of law in place at some point based on how many data centers are trying to come into the state. It gives the county a chance to look at the infrastructure plans, some of the emergency service requirements, and some of the decommissioning standards that might be important for these data centers.
All the things that will affect people's day-to-day lives in these communities. That's why you can't, it's a similar phenomenon, but not with the major impact that data centers are having across Wisconsin. The town I used to live in suddenly passed a law where you could have gaming. You could have slot machines in bars and things. Well, they didn't really put any limit on it. So all of a sudden, the little downtown area that we had, every storefront had become one of these gaming centers. And people, I don't know a lot of people don't go in there. I never saw people in there. But it was unchecked is the point. So these places saying, let's pump the brakes. Let's see how this plays out. The ones that are in motion, they're going to finish. And then we see, instead of just opening the floodgates and then down the road in hindsight going, boy, this probably wasn't the best move because of higher bills and the infrastructure and all the things you mentioned. We didn't look into those first. We saw dollar signs and we grabbed it. And the money grab doesn't always work out.
No, it doesn't. Alicia pointing out over on our social media this morning, over on YouTube where she's watching, another large concern in Manitowoc County is windmill construction as well. So, and I think that's just it. I don't think any of us are anti-development. We're not anti bringing in these new facilities. I think what most citizens are asking is, let's reevaluate. Let's make sure that we're going to be able to afford our own electricity because these data centers are moving into the area. Let's make sure that we're not ruining our farmland and a large portion of how Wisconsin makes their income because of these data centers. Let's just reevaluate what's actually happening, and let's put some rules on these companies as they're trying to come in and build these facilities. I like new jobs. I like to give people places to work.
That's a hot take, Jamie. You like giving people jobs?
I like it. Like when people can have jobs, and and these data centers can potentially do that during the construction process, and the people
right.
That
but
will
are
have
those
to be there to run
permanent?
them.
Are they permanent jobs or are they temporary
That's
jobs?
what we need to know.
And it seems like once the data centers are built, or data centers, you don't need too many people to actually be there. From the investigating that we've done and the conversations we've had, yes, there's a lot of jobs getting these things up and running, but then those kind of go away. So that's that. And plus, we can't have windmills, Jamie, that kills the birds. I don't like the birds dying. If you ever seen wind, things flowing around, I don't like it.
Now back to more of Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
6:35 right now on this Friday morning. If you are listening in Appleton and Oshkosh on WISS, or in Eau Claire on 93.5 The Tap, or even in Wisconsin Rapids on WFHR, thank you so much for joining the Civic Media Network. I am Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. We're glad you're with us this morning. When the Supreme Court said that the tariffs that the president had put in place unilaterally just decided this is what they're going to be, they said those were illegal. The president vowed that he would bring out new tariffs, because, well, he says he can. So now Wisconsin, along with more than 20 states, are suing to challenge the Trump's new 15% global tariffs as an unconstitutional power grab. It's led by attorneys from Oregon, Arizona, California, and New York. But yesterday, Josh Kaul in Wisconsin jumped on board. There are, as I said, more than 20 states doing this because they believe, and I believe, that these tariffs are illegal, that he doesn't have the right to do them. And they are really, really hurting not only the big picture across the country, but they are hitting very close to home in Wisconsin for small businesses. Jamie, you found a story about a company in Glendale that
Weyco Group, which is a shoe manufacturer, and they are saying that they paid about $16 million in tariffs in 2025 due to the administration's trade policies. Now, the company reports about $23 million in profits, which is down 24% from $30 million in 2024. And the CEO of this company said that tariffs increased their costs 19% to 50%, depending on what country they were getting those goods from, making trade with China, their largest supplier, temporarily unworkable. Now, Weyco raised prices about 10%, but said that only covered a small portion of the costs they were paying in the tariffs. The company kept some products overseas. They had to adjust production to avoid the higher tariffs. And Weyco filed a lawsuit seeking to recover the $16 million after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the law used to justify the tariffs exceeded presidential authority. Now, here's what I think is interesting. Weyco had to raise their shoe prices to basically cover their costs. That is completely contradictory to what this administration has told us about how tariffs actually work, because it turns out that the companies have to pay those tariffs, then in turn charge us a higher price for those goods. So then we essentially, as the American people, as consumers, are paying for the tariffs. That's how that actually works.
I don't think you're doing the math correctly. I was told that the other companies pay the tariffs. Well, these governors, all the 20 attorneys general, are saying that the lawsuit is saying that Trump is basically overstepping his power with the 15% tariffs on much of the world. He now has invoked Section 122 of a 1974 law, and I shudder to think how much research you did on it, Jamie, because I did just enough to say that this section has never been used before, and it allows the president to impose tariffs of up to 15%. Now, they're limited to 5 months unless extended by Congress. And this kind of, it smells a little bit like the same thing that the Supreme Court said before when they rejected these tariffs because there is no emergency authority. He claims emergency authority. They're saying there's no emergency.
Right. And I think that's going to be the big sticking point as the conversation about tariffs continues. And here's the thing that I would point out. I mean, we're talking, remember way back just a week ago when tariffs were the hottest story, and then we happened to bomb a country, and here we are, and everybody's kind of forgotten about tariffs. Well, now we're
not if you're going to the store, you're not forgetting about tariffs.
That's just it. We're in this precarious situation now where goods were already completely, in some cases, getting out of hand for a lot of people to purchase. The prices continue to rise, and now we're talking about some sort of devastation to the trade policies and communities because of this war in the Middle East and the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is now closed, so we can't get goods through, which the strait is a major shipping route.
Can I take you back a half hour? All the way back a half hour.
Yes, please
where Donald Trump says he's not concerned about rising gas prices. He's not concerned about your rising costs everywhere else because he still believes everything is he believes. This is a justification for everything. Well, I believe he believes other countries are actually paying for the tariffs because he's, I don't know, uninformed, willfully ignorant. I don't know what he is.
Well, I believe that when I go to the grocery store, my grocery bill for the same things that I was buying 6 months ago have increased by about $45 to $50 total.
Yes.
Like if I'm putting together a whole grocery bill, that's what I believe. And so I don't care what this president is telling me about what he believes. I believe that when I go to the store and I purchase those same few items that I do week after week, which are my pantry staples, I believe that I am paying more when I do so because of the fact that the prices continue to rise. That's
and I believe that children are the future, but that's neither here nor there. We don't. That's not the point of the story. Yes, anybody who's not seeing this, really, you are out of touch because if you don't agree that everything is going up. But anyway, he's saying we've got to have these tariffs because we had such a trade deficit. Other countries were taking advantage of us. So we have to put these. The White House, of course, backing the president, saying he's acting within his power. That section 122 is aimed at what it calls fundamental international payment problems.
Yes.
At issue in this lawsuit is whether the wording covers trade deficits, which is the gap between what the U.S. sells other countries and what it buys from them. This arose from a financial crisis that emerged in the 60s and 70s when the U.S. dollar was tied to gold, but the U.S. dollar is no longer tied to gold. So some legal analysts say that this may be a stronger case for the president, but it's not a lock.
From what I understand, Section 122 isn't going to apply here because if you really look at it, the law authorizes tariffs in limited circumstances, as you mentioned, including when there are large and serious balance of payments deficits. Notably, a trade deficit is not a balance of payment deficit, meaning that, once again, if you look at it from those terms, whether or not the courts will agree or not, because they're much more versed in this than I am, but if you look at it from that perspective, the president is once again acting unlawfully by determining a blanket 10% to even 15% tariff across the board on all of our trade partners.
It's like if you're late on your electric bill and it goes to collection. Not that I would know about that, but if it goes to suddenly put everybody under collection, no, just the one. So there is. You're right. If you try to make it everyday analogies, it'd be like penalizing everybody who owes on their credit card because one person is late on their credit card. That's the justification they're using for this, and it doesn't fit.
No, it doesn't. And Section 122 really emerged during the 1960s and 1970s when other countries were dumping dollars in exchange for gold at this set rate, which was risking the collapse of the U.S. currency and then chaos in the financial markets. And as you rightly pointed out, gold is dollars and gold are no longer linked together.
Right.
So this is going to be a bit of an obsolete section if this is what they're going to hang their hat on in this particular case. Now, it's interesting because I think that the lawsuit that is challenging this round of tariffs, this complaint essentially contends that the actions by the Trump administration are completely violating the law, upending constitutional separation of powers, and violating the Administrative Procedure Act. Here's what I'm going to say about that. This administration has not seemed to care at all about violating anything. So I don't think that they see this as any sort of violation. They just see this as the president promised to fix trade and get more money for America, and this is what we're going to do. And they obviously do not care what Americans are going to be paying in the end or what these companies are paying at the end. And we're starting to see more companies, now that this has continued, take these financial hits, right? And
people are speaking up. And yesterday, Josh Call put out a press release when Wisconsin joined this lawsuit. And in it, he said, quote, "At a time when so many people are concerned about affordability challenges," that's made up by the Democrats. Come on, Josh. "President Trump's tariffs have made the situation worse. The unlawful use of tariffs should stop." That's how the press release began from Josh Call yesterday. So I'm glad to see he's jumping in on all of these lawsuits.
Yes.
So are our neighbors, Michigan, Minnesota, and Illinois, all part of this. They're the only ones really. Well, they're the only blue states in our neighborhood, basically.
Right.
And so they're in a lot of East Coast, a lot of Southwest, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, and many, many more. And then the governors of Pennsylvania and Kentucky are involved as well.
And I saw a little, as this lawsuit made the news headlines yesterday, not just here in Wisconsin, but across the country because of the amount of states that are jumping into this. There was a lot of people who were pointing out Kentucky being a red state. Yes, Kentucky does traditionally vote a red state, but they do have a Democratic governor right now, Andy Beshear. And so you've got to think that played a little bit into it because obviously governors who are really trying to protect the people of their state and make sure that they are, as they worry about the escalating prices, are trying to make sure that this administration does not continue to run rampant. Now, here's a question for you.
Yes.
As we talk about these tariffs and this Section 122 from the Trade Act of 1974, this is going to have to be kicked to Congress again in the next couple of months, right?
Yes,
There's 60 days on
60
this.
days.
60 days. What do you think this Congress does? Are they going to tell the president no, that he cannot do this? Are they going to rubber stamp this like they have done other things? Or will they do that fake debate and outrage on social media and on cable news, some of the GOP representatives, and then go ahead and vote in line with Mike Johnson and John Thune and the president in the long run?
That is interesting because now we're in March. So that would put us in May, let's say the end of May. So Memorial Day, this is going to come up for a vote. That's 2 months for these legislators to hear from their constituents, especially if you're a small business owner in a Republican represented area and you're not on the phone constantly with your representative, you're doing yourself a disservice. So 2 more months. Some more primaries will have happened. The tide will be a little clearer what's happening. By then, they'll see the effects that this happened. Now, if they were smart, and that's a big if, then they decide on their own. They make their own decisions based on their job of representing their constituents. So if I'm hearing from my constituents nonstop that these tariffs are killing them and this is not, guess what? And this is a constituent talking. I'm a Republican representative, and I can't afford my groceries. I can't afford anything that I'm ordering online. I can't afford things because of these tariffs. And I still back a guy who, if the House and Senate flip in November is pretty much going to be kneecapped, then I do that at my peril as a representative. And also, at some point, they have to start believing the facts and the numbers, because the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, that's not just your local Chase corner branch.
Right.
They concluded nearly 90% of the costs of tariffs last year were paid by American consumers and businesses. This is not a made-up number. This is the truth. This is tariffs. And if you, as a Republican representative, are not listening to the people in your districts, you have no business being in Congress.
Nope. There's absolutely no responsibility then. You are listening to the Civic Media.
Local voices, statewide impact. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
6:52 right now. We hope that you are having a great Friday morning. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're listening on your favorite local radio station or if you are joining us online or through the app. We are certainly glad that you're here. I am Jamie Martinson.
And good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. Sad news out of the sports world.
Yeah.
And if you want to get involved and give us your thoughts on Bob Harlan, you are welcome to 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. I was trying to I want to let Jamie and Parker handle this because it affects you guys more. I'm sure you're more emotionally attached to this story than Frank and myself, but it's a loss in the sports world nonetheless, and it is a monumental loss. So sad day in Green Bay.
It is. Of course, talking about the passing of longtime president and CEO of the Green Bay Packers, Bob Harlan. He was 89 years old. He passed away at St. Mary's Hospital in Green Bay. He led the Green Bay Packers, Brian, for 18 and a half years. And whether you are a Packers fan or not, you got to have mad respect for Bob Harlan because he was actually the man who transformed the franchise on the field and financially.
100%.
He joined the team in 1971. He was named president and CEO in 1989. One of the most important moves that I think Bob Harlan will always be known for was the hiring of general manager Ron Wolf, and he did that in 1991. And then Ron Wolf was the one who went ahead then and hired Mike Holmgren as head coach, then traded for Brett Favre, and then also signed Reggie White. So we are talking a legacy all under Bob Harlan's watch. And I had to do a little digging because I would have been remiss to not hear from Bob Harlan himself, because he was such a man of faith. He was such a compassionate person, just a passion for the Green Bay Packers and sports in general with his background. So I did a little digging. I found a 2007 interview that he did with St. Norbert College. And it was right after his book was released. And this is what he had to say about Ron Wolf. This is cut one, please.
And I always felt if we were ever looking for a general manager in the future, whether I was the one who selected him or not, and I certainly didn't think I would be, that we had to take a long look at Ron Wolf. And he had worked for 25 years for the Oakland Raiders and Al Davis. And I thought anyone who does that has got to be very dedicated and have great football knowledge, or he wouldn't have lasted that long. So when I called Ron and offered him the job, I said, you have total and full authority over the operation. I can promise you there will be absolutely no interference.
This was a fascinating interview to go back and watch, by the way, because of all of the information that Bob Harlan had stored in his head, even in 2007, right? It was truly fascinating. But under his leadership, under the leadership of Bob Harlan and Ron Wolf, and Packers fans, we're not telling you any history you probably don't already know, but it's fun to relive the glory days a little bit. The Packers reached 2 Super Bowls, winning in 1997, and then they returned the following year. And during that Wolf era foundation, from 92 to about 2017, the Packers went 261, 154, and 1, which is incredible. A 63% winning percentage is what the Green Bay Packers had in that era. Now, the most controversial decision, and a lot of Packers fans will probably remember this, was the decision that he made for a 0.5% Brown County sales tax to renovate Lambeau Field, which was approved by the voters in 2000 and completed in 2003. Listening to that 2007 interview, one of the things that I found most striking is he said he didn't expect the pushback because it literally amounted to 13 cents per day on taxpayers' property tax bills. And so much pushback ended up making it happen so that they could do all of those renovations, which really helps secure the Packers' financial future.
And just aside, it goes to show people vote by, or people are upset about their pocketbook. They love the Packers.
Yes.
There's no doubt. If you've never been, and everybody here has been to Green Bay, maybe not for a game, but you've been to Green Bay. A lot of towns, football is a seasonal thing, not in Green Bay.
It's everything.
And it is nonstop. So if people in Green Bay are scoffing at 13 cents a day, that should be a lesson to every politician or every team that is trying to get public money. But that was just a sidebar.
Yeah, no, it's important. And he actually talked about some of that because that was what he basically had to tell people in Brown County is we are doing this to secure your future. We're doing this to secure the stability of the team and to bring more and to be a leader in the state. We all know how it turned out because now we're looking at Titletown District as well. So kudos to Bob Harlan. But he also ended the long-running practice of playing home games in Milwaukee. He moved all Packers home games permanently to Lambeau Field. And before joining the Packers, if you don't know, his background started with the St. Louis Cardinals baseball organization, where he served as sports information and also served as sports information director at Marquette University here in the state. And because of his roles with both teams, he was one of the few people to hold both a World Series ring and a Super Bowl ring.
Oh, that's cool.
I know, it's very cool. And here's a little bit more from that 2007 interview. Here is cut 2, please.
I think I've been very fortunate. I had the chance to work at my alma mater and the opportunity to work with Al McGuire, who put together the greatest era in Marquette basketball history. Went to the St. Louis Baseball Cardinals, who have a wonderful tradition. I was fortunate enough to be on a team that won a world championship there when I was a PR director. And then I came to the Packers, which I still think is the greatest story in sports. And I'm simply a caretaker of the Green Bay Packers. It's owned by the fans, and that's what makes it remarkable, that in the year 2007, Green Bay, the smallest community in professional sports, can still be a part of the National Football League, and it's been a wonderful opportunity.
In fact,
for
a
me.
leader in many ways.
Absolutely.
Bob Harlan, shortly after this interview with St. Norbert, did retire. He was succeeded by Mark Murphy as Packers president and CEO, and he is survived by his wife Madeline and 3 sons, including the famous broadcaster Kevin Harlan. Great
and our
legacy.
own Parker is wearing his Packer shirt
Yes.
today in tribute. So,
Yes.
R.I.P.
Great
Bob
legacy.
Harlan. That was a great story. When we come back, we're going to get more into Kristi Noem being fired and who is Markwayne Mullin. This is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan.
I'm Jamie Martinson. You are listening to the Civic Media Network.
From Lake Superior to Lake Michigan, this is Wisconsin's Morning Conversation. Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Civic Media Network. It is 7:06 right now, and looking out the windows here at our studio in Madison, some rain coming down in downtown right now, and there's going to be good portions of the state that are going to see some heavier rain this morning, and then some much warmer temperatures as we go. In fact, we're talking some record-breaking temperatures in portions of the area throughout the weekend. High 60s, low 70s, which is
and
pretty
some
weird
potentially dangerous weather in southeast Wisconsin, moving a pretty big swath of potentially dangerous weather. So everybody will be keeping an eye on that. We're glad you're here. If you want to get involved with the show, 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Don't forget, you can always listen on the Civic Media app. So download that for free, and you can hear us and hear all the other great stations on the Civic Network. So we touched on this at the beginning. The big news out of yesterday, and it's hard because there's a lot of news. But the biggest news had to be the firing of Kristi Noem. The president announced it yesterday afternoon. He also said he is going to nominate Senator Markwayne Mullin, who is from Oklahoma, to lead Homeland Security. Mullin supposedly will take over at the end of March, pending confirmation by the U.S. Senate, which is, the stamp
pretty
of
much
the rubber
guaranteed at
stamp.
this point.
Kristi Noem will transition into her new role, Jamie, as special envoy for the Shield of the Americas, a proposed Western Hemisphere security initiative. And then Markwayne Mullin is heading Hydra, I think is how that works.
Well, it's something. I guess that's what we're going to say. I'm not really sure what Kristi Noem's new role is going to be. We know with this president, he doesn't like to admit when things have not gone his way or when he's made a bad decision. So instead of just basically saying, hey, you're not with the administration anymore, we now have the Shield of the Americas that she is going to lead. Now, according to reports that we were hearing as of yesterday, late last night, Trump actually informed Noem of the decision during a phone call while she was arriving at an event in Nashville. She actually had to still get up and give that long speech, even after she'd been told she'd been sidelined to the Shield of the Americas. Now, in recent, awkward,
say it again for me, will you? Just because it makes me laugh every time I hear it.
The Shield of the Americas. I feel like we need some sort of shirt. It's like the Avengers merchandise or something. But
there will be.
There probably will be, yes. But in recent weeks, we've seen Noem face increasing scrutiny and criticism, not just from the Democrats, but also from the Republicans, including Trump's inner circle. There were questions surrounding the costly DHS advertising campaign, $220 million for that. Which
I had not seen those. Had you seen those with her riding on the horse through the?
Yes.
I've only seen the ones where she's threatening people at the airport.
Yes.
And telling them they're going to be
was
deported.
Illegal, by the way.
That's whatever. Why quibble at this point?
We parse through these rules and these laws. It's weird.
But I didn't see the horse riding one. I was like, oh, this girl loves to dress up.
She does. That's one thing that I will say is maybe if you're trying to find any human quality of Kristi Noem based on her actions over the last few weeks, is that granted, I know she's talked about shooting dogs and goats, but she really does love horses. That was a thing. She has a ranch yet in South Dakota where they do raise horses, so she does love.
You don't think
her
she's
horses.
praying for one of them to break a leg so she can put it down?
It's hard to tell.
Based on her
Kristi
track
Noem.
record?
It's really hard to tell.
I've asked you this before, and I want to ask you this again because you are, as you've mentioned many times, you're from South Dakota. She, of course, the former governor of South Dakota. When did the transformation of Kristi Noem from just regular Republican who looked like this is no shade, a South Dakota housewife. She looked like a regular woman.
She did.
She just looked like an average mom who was now in politics. When did this weird transformation? Because there's nothing about her she's one of those people, and I know we're not supposed to talk about people's looks, but it's when you transform that much,
right?
And from a distance, you're like, oh, this is attractive. But then the closer the picture gets, the more the face is distorted. It's a weird thing. She
started coming into the local political circle as we were getting ready to leave. I've had several friends in South Dakota who still live there, so I've gotten to track her a little bit more than I probably would, just after leaving a state. It seems like some of the transformation started during Trump's first presidency, especially when he was, especially during the first campaign series of the 2020 elections, when he would be in South Dakota regularly courting the Wisconsin voters. That seems like when when the metamorphosis of Kristi Noem really started. She was also governor at the time, so she had a little bit more prominent role, especially in that campaign. And that was when we started to see her really change who she was from some of those things, those values that in South Dakota got her voted in the first place. In fact, I have a really great friend who, as a former journalist and a sexual assault victim, actually passed a law through South South Dakota called Jolene's Law that needed huge help from Kristi Noem.
Really?
And Kristi Noem was a great supporter of it, helped pass it, helped get us through the legislature. And that was maybe only 10 years ago. So that tells you kind of when the metamorphosis of Kristi Noem happened. Now, in recent weeks, though, besides that weird DHS advertising campaign, a lot of people started questioning her responses to some of those fatal incidents that involved the federal immigration agents, especially in Minneapolis. There was also allegations about a relationship with Corey Lewandowski, a top advisor to Trump during the first presidency. Now, she has denied all of that. Some Republicans, as senators and officials, though, within DHS, also started raising some concerns about her leadership skills following some of those congressional hearings that took place earlier this week. In fact, reports say that it was after those hearings that Trump himself started reaching out to Republicans asking whether or not they thought she was up for the job. And as you can expect,
again, it's ruling by consensus. Would this be a popular move for me if I fired her? Should I get rid of her? Do I need to? How about use your own judgment? How about, but he doesn't have it. So,
well, I was just going to say, be careful what you wish for.
Never mind, yeah.
But a lot of Republicans and Democrats have started weighing in on the removal of Kristi Noem. And we know that J.B. Pritzker has not been a fan of this president, this administration, or many of the ICE actions under Kristi Noem. This is what he had to say yesterday in a recorded message. This is cut 3, please.
Hey, Kristi Noem, don't let the door hit you on the way out. Here's your legacy. Corruption and chaos. Parents and children tear-gassed. Moms and nurses, U.S. citizens getting shot in the face. Now that you're gone, don't think you get to just walk away. I guarantee you, you will still be held accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to love the fire behind J.B. Pritzker. I love J.B. Pritzker's
as opposed
fire.
to the fire from Chuck Schumer? Cut 4?
Yeah.
Today, there's a report of an ICE officer getting his finger.
I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay. There we go.
They've been stonewalling us on the most important issues, and those have to change, and they have to change them.
Well,
we have to change them by legislation, because any one person, I don't trust any one person being in charge of this agency as long as Trump is president, given the policies he's espoused, given how ICE has been structured. The rot is deep.
Did you see the drop-dead look that Chuck Schumer gave that reporter who dared to even try to interrupt with a follow-up question?
Yes.
Ooh, I didn't think the old man had it in him.
Here's the thing that I'm going to say. This is the exact response why a lot of people are upset with the Democratic Party right now. I mean, Kristi Noem has been controversial since the confirmation hearings, and that was really all you could give us as far as, I don't know. It was
no fire.
It was not unexpected, but it's always disappointing to see that type of lackluster response from the Democrats, right? Now, some Republicans weighed in as well. Senator Joe Kennedy, who questioned Noem just this week during those Senate hearings about that $200 million DHS advertising spending, had this to say about the new nominee. This is cut number 5.
The president, when he called me Tuesday night, the night of the hearing, when he was mad as a murder hornet.
Wow.
He asked me what I thought about Markwayne, and I said, A, I like him. B, he's very smart. C, he's a very good businessman. And D, if I didn't believe the 3 things I just told you, I'd lie to you because Markwayne would whip my ass.
There you go.
Boy, see, and just when I thought, I had to throw a flower John Kennedy's way the other day for his grilling of Kristi Noem, he's back to being on my deplorables list.
It's fine.
So that's good. He brought up Markwayne Mullin. Let's get into this real quick because we got to hear. You have to hear some of Markwayne in his own words. But he previously served in the House of Representatives from 2013 to 2023. He represents Oklahoma's 2nd Congressional District. Then he won the U.S. Senate seat in 2022 in a special election. He is an enrolled member of the Cherokee Nation, became the first tribal citizen to serve in the U.S. Senate in 20 years. Before politics, he ran his family's plumbing business. He took over when his dad got sick. He also competed as an undefeated professional mixed martial arts fighter with a 5-0 record, and he went out on top. So, that's who we've got.
You know he's going to be at the America 250 MMA fights.
Oh, he's headlining
in August. I just know it. But we want you to hear a little bit of Markwayne in his own words. This is cut 6, please.
Today, there's a report of an ICE officer getting his finger bit off, and then unfortunately, a deranged individual that came in to cause max damage with a loaded pistol with an extra mag that was completely loaded was shot and killed. How much more does this got to go on before the Democrat leaders there take responsibility for their words?
That was him right after the killing of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis, because some sources say that one of the reasons Kristi Noem was ousted was for her statements.
Yeah.
That was what Markwayne had to say about the incident. But this was also him in June of 2025 on NBC's Meet the Press discussing birthright citizenship. This is cut 7, please.
Well, here's what we know. There's a whole industry that has stood up to bring people here in their last month of pregnancy to have a child here, and they come here on a vacation visa, and they have a child, so their child will be able to be U.S. citizens. It's a whole industry. You know it, and I know it. What we're trying to do is end those that are gaming the system.
Should
and that's
those
exactly
babies
what's
be
happening
deported,
now.
Senator, with their parents? Are you saying those babies should be deported with their parents?
Well, they should go where their parents are. Why wouldn't you send a child with their parents? I mean, why would you want to separate them? I wouldn't want to be separated from my kid, and no parent should want to be separated from their kids. So if their parents are deported, then the child should most definitely go with the parents.
So that's a little bit of Markwayne. He also co-introduced legislation to ban transgender athletes from competing in sports based on gender identity rather than sex at birth. Senate leaders say that they're going to move quickly through his confirmation, which, let's be realistic, not unexpected.
And can we not bypass the fact that in 2023, he got in an argument with the president of the Teamsters during a Senate hearing and threatened to fight him right there in the chambers? The Teamsters president had put a post on Twitter, currently known as X, calling Mullin a fraud and a clown. He wanted to go right now. Let's go. You ready to settle this right? And he started. You love the fact that he took off his rings
was ridiculous.
And then Bernie Sanders, frail old Bernie Sanders, had to step in.
Sit him
and
down.
all right, fellas. Remember, you're a senator. You're not the 1% of the 1%.
It's a $65 billion department that does more than just immigration control. FEMA, cybersecurity. Is this the guy that we trust to run it? That's the question. I think.
No, but welcome
Here we are.
to the world.
7:19 right now. You are listening to Daybreak. I am Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. Is this?
Let's break out of the bubble and see what's happening out there in pop culture. It's Swipe or Stay on Daybreak.
7:22 right now, and easily becoming one of our favorite segments because we do get to break out of the bubble. We pop it for just a moment, and we explore something that is not political talk. We explore a little bit of what else is happening in the world with our senior producer, Frank. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm doing well, guys. Hope you guys are also having a good start to your mornings. I know it's raining out in Madison pretty hard, so
yeah,
these guys are dry.
Yeah. We're inside It was funny because when I was coming in today, there's always a crew of construction workers as they're doing some work in downtown Madison.
Whistling at you?
They were like, oh, it's going to be raining all day today. No, not whistling. No, they're actually very courteous and kind. They always make sure I get in the door, in fact, in the parking garage. Yes, they're fantastic. But I was listening to them bemoan the fact that the weather was going to be awful today, and they were preparing for that, getting all their rain gear. So if you do have to work outside, we're thinking about you because it really does look miserable right now. It really does. My goodness. But we have to talk pop culture. Yes, we do.
Yes.
So what do you got for us?
Yep, Swipe or Stay. If you haven't heard before, I'm going to read some pop culture headlines. Brian and Jamie will have to decide whether or not they're going to swipe and move on to the next one or stay on it and hear more about it. In the event of a tie, Parker will be the tiebreaker. Let's move on to story number 1. A pop star is in DUI trouble.
Oh, I know this story.
Oh, I know this one too.
Stay.
I don't like to pile on, but let's stay.
No. Yeah.
Let's stay.
All right, we're staying on this one. It just keeps getting worse for Miss Britney Spears.
I know.
Yeah.
Who could have saw this coming? She was pulled over and arrested for a DUI on Wednesday close to her home in California. TMZ has learned that she actually fired her sobriety coaches and a couple of security guards weeks ago. So again, who could have saw this? Who could have seen this coming? Everybody. Also, one of the people, do you remember the whole like free Britney?
Yes.
Free Britney, yeah.
Yes.
Free Britney, and everybody was on board.
Mm-hmm.
There was one social media influencer who really contributed to a lot of those videos and the movement. And she
Was that the crying guy? No. Oh, somebody else?
Was years ago. That was Leave Britney Alone. That was
that's true.
saga.
Yes.
So one of the ladies who's made TikToks and social media content saying, to help end her conservatorship has come out and said, yeah, that might have been a bad idea.
Yeah, there might have been a reason her family was trying to protect her. I think there were probably better ways to do it, but sometimes they know a little bit more than the outside
Do you
world,
think the family has like a I told you so moment right now going?
I think you have to, don't you?
Yeah, at some point, it's like you're a grown woman, and
Yeah.
she obviously has a lot of problems and issues, and but yeah, so
You know,
it's
like,
sad. I miss the dancing in the foyer videos, though. I got to be
Yeah.
honest.
It's still there.
Are they? I don't
I think she just
I don't
posted
I don't
it.
follow it.
There's
It's got to
so
be
many, though at this point.
yeah.
It's
It's got to
like,
be something really crazy for me to pay attention.
Britney's dancing again. Okay, and not in a good way. Not on stage. All
Yeah.
right.
All right.
Let's move on. A congressman has admitted to having an affair.
Oh, I know this story too. Who hasn't? I'm gonna swipe.
Yeah, I don't care. I want to get out of politics for this segment.
All right, fine. It was juicy, man.
Oh, hold on. Well, now it's too late.
No, it's gone.
We
swiped
it. We swiped it. It is the
An
way it goes.
Olympian makes a plea for privacy.
An Olympian makes a plea for privacy.
I'll stay.
Don't most Olympians just get privacy unintentionally? I'll stay.
Okay, we're gonna.
This one not juicy, Frank. You seem disappointed that we stayed on this one.
No, this is a good one.
All right.
I think
I
this is
think
an
he's still
interesting
salty at us for
conversation.
skipping on the affair.
Yeah.
But
Only
anyway,
a
go
little
ahead.
bit. I mean, it involved arson, but it's fine. We'll just move on. Elisa
Stay for the
Liu-
show and stay for
Yep.
the secret show.
Yes, please do.
Elisa Liu took to Instagram pleading for some privacy amid her rise to fame after taking home 2 gold medals at the Olympics. In an Instagram story the other day, she said, "So I land at the airport and there's a crowd waiting at the exit with cameras and things for me to sign. All up in my personal space. Someone chased me to my car, bruh." She was the first female to win gold in the figure skating singles category since 2002. Now, I think this is really interesting because when you become an actor or an actress, or like a pop star or rock star, you know what you're getting yourself into, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You, as an Olympic athlete, especially, it's a pretty quick jump from
Right.
hey, I love to figure skate. I love figure skating. I'm really good at it. And I'm at my local ice arena practicing to boom, I just won a gold medal and now I'm on the Tonight Show. And now there's people waiting.
Don't you think for Alyssa Liu, though, too, it's a little different because she did take years off to deal with her own mental health. And so to have people chasing her down in an airport, it just seems a little, I mean, I get it, but it's disrespectful, I think, at some point, too.
There's 2 sides to it. Yes, I'll agree. It is as a fan, you need to have some boundaries.
Right.
These people don't belong to you. You admire what they do. So you have to be respectful. You have to pull back a little bit. But on the other hand, yes, Alyssa Liu took time off for her mental health. I'm glad she's doing better. I thought she was incredible at the Olympics. She was fun to watch. She seems like a nice kid. Nobody gets to that level of sport, even if it's amateur sport, without knowing what comes with the success. She's seen enough Olympians before. She knows it. Get somebody with security. Get Markwayne Mullin. He'll fight anybody. take him with.
He'll just go with you everywhere.
If I had to guess, I would assume once the endorsement deals start ringing in, like I feel like a couple months after, and she finally has like some real money to go along with the fame.
Yeah,
security guards will be coming.
Yeah,
especially if I were her, I'd be doing that.
Yeah. Of course.
Oh,
wow, that was quick today.
Yeah, what's up?
We can talk about the other one from the secret show on the stream if you want.
All right, and we gotta. We'll just stop. We'll just let you handle it. No more chit chat from us.
No, absolutely. It is 7:29 right now. You are listening to Daybreak. I am Jamie Martinson,
and I'm Brian Noonan. We'll talk about with Votebeat after this on the Civic Media Network.
Local news, community stories, and the conversations that matter most. Now, more Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
7:35 right now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. If you are in Madison, listening on WMDX, in Wausau on WXCO, or if you're in Hayward on WBZH, we are glad that you're here. You might be seeing some rain. Tom pointing out over on our text line, Brian, that this is our first major rainstorm of the year, and some areas of the state could potentially see some more severe weather, like not a tornado, not out of the question as far as the weather service goes.
The whole swath is coming up through the southeast portion of the state, including Madison, so we'll keep an eye on that. When the current legislative session started in January, this was strange. The Senate leaders made an unusual decision. They decided they weren't going to create a committee dedicated to election policy. Now, this is the first time that's happened in about 20 years. The choice has had numerous consequences, not the least of which is that the Senate has taken up a lot fewer election bills than the Assembly this time, and the measures are now stalled and don't look like they could go forward. How is that going to affect Wisconsin and Wisconsin voters? Alexander Shur is here. He joins us now. He's a reporter for Votebeat Wisconsin. He previously covered politics, policy, and the fallout of the 2020 presidential election for the Wisconsin State Journal. Votebeat.org is their website. Alex, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's start with this. What's the job of the Election Policy Committee, and why is it an important part of the business of the Assembly?
Yes, I mean, generally the committee chair is not only choosing what bills to hold a hearing for and when and how to pass bills, but they're also coordinating with the many election stakeholders from, clerks, nonprofit voting groups, other states. They're really just the point person if clerks have a concern, if an advocacy group wants a law to change, or if they have a concern about a bill. In the Assembly, there's one person to go to. There's a couple people to go to at this point, but you go to the chair and you go to the vice chair of the committee. The current vice chair, Scott Krug, is unusually active on election bills just because he used to be the chair and has a real passion for it. But given the Senate's choice not to have an election committee, there's not a clear point person, is what I'm hearing from election stakeholders.
Alex, do we know after 20 years of having, this dedicated committee, do we know at this point why this particular decision was made this time around?
No, I've not exactly, except I heard through the grapevine, not from, official, didn't get official word, but heard through the grapevine no one wanted to be that single point person. So that's possibly it, but again, this is sort of conjecture that I've heard people put out there, and I'm not sure if they know, but there's what I heard at the beginning of last year was, well, it could go to this committee, or this committee, and folks were like, well, that's not great, but as long as it works, it works. I think at this point it's an open question whether it works. Some people just think this dynamic is not.
Well, let's judge if it's working by the numbers, and what are they? So how many fewer election bills has the Senate taken up than the Assembly this session, and compare that to previous sessions?
Yeah, so half as many is the answer. And the Senate is still in session, so they still theoretically could pass more bills. But the Assembly has passed 18 or at least had a public hearing for 18 bills. And in the Senate, it's 9. And again, those 9 are in different committees. And I think the interesting thing there is there's not a clear like election agenda in the Senate. It's not, you can look at the bills that pass versus the ones that don't and see like a through line of, oh, okay, we get what they're doing here. It just seems sort of random. Like some Senate bills that were a priority of some members in the Senate, like required early in-person voting hours, haven't passed the chamber, haven't got past a public hearing.
So we're talking with Alex Shur. He's a reporter at Votebeat, votebeat.org, if you want to check out his work. So you mentioned the fact that we've established that this is the first time in 20 years that nobody really wanted to be the point person. So where are these election bills going right now? What is their actual process for moving them through or to actually having any sort of committee on them?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a government operations committee. That's where some of the bills go. There's a local government committee. That's where some of the bills go. I mean, most of them are just not going anywhere. A couple have passed. Actually, a couple of days ago, the Senate held a executive session, or the committee held an executive session, essentially passing the bill from the committee to the floor on one election bill. But again, there's just no, in the Assembly, it's clear where a bill is going to be, how it's going to pass, when it's going to pass. And in the Senate, it seems more random. So, I mean, the other somewhat notable thing that Senate could make up some ground for is they're still in session while the Assembly isn't. So they could still pass bills. The catch is if they amend any of the bills, well, the Assembly is not there to sign off on that.
So local election clerks say that some of these stall bills could actually make their jobs easier, including proposals to track absentee ballots and improve the voter records. What are you hearing from clerks about some of that slowdown and, how they proceed in what is going to be a very busy election cycle for the state of Wisconsin?
Yeah, I mean, I think for better or worse, to some extent, they're used to this in some way. I mean, for all that the Assembly has done, I think one of the most notable things about this legislative session is this really high priority bill to allow clerks to begin processing ballots on Monday, called the Monday Count Bill, hasn't even been written this legislative session, much less passed in any chamber. In past sessions, the same bill maybe it would pass one house and get stalled in another, or it would always appear like somewhat close to passing. And, clerks and some legislators say, well, next session is the session this happens. And here it didn't even pass. So, I mean, I think in terms of significant bills not passing, that's at the top of it. And clerks really want it. And, this is a dynamic that they have become used to. They've been wanting this bill for many sessions. But in terms of, the current bills that are written and not passing, I think for the most part, clerks are extending that philosophy they have about, okay, it is what it is, to this. I mean, they're used to lawsuits dictating how they do their jobs in the legislature, sometimes, but not always, listening to their needs. Mm-hmm. So.
Alex, before we let you go, one last question. There seems to be not complete support amongst the Republicans for not having this committee. Some are defending it, some are not. What's the main arguments from the Republicans that are saying, hey, this wasn't a good idea?
Again, it's just easier to have that point person, someone to coordinate with. If say you talk to all the stakeholders, you agree on the conditions of the bill, all that happens in the Assembly among stakeholders, but it doesn't include the Senate lead on this proposal. Well, then the Senate could do whatever they want. And it's just easier having everyone in the same room. But if you don't know who that person is in the Senate, it's just going to trip things up.
Yeah, that was Alex Shur. He is a reporter over at Votebeat, and if you want to check out more of his work, we would love for you to do that. It is votebeat.org. Alex, thank you so much for joining us this morning and explaining some of this important issue on elections here in the state of Wisconsin. Thank you, and have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Brian,
Alex.
We know that voting in Wisconsin has been hard pressed over the years, right? We know
Everywhere, Wisconsin
yeah.
is not unique, but it is definitely an issue at every election.
And I mean, I think that's the biggest question. Why do we want to make it harder in this state? I mean, not having an elections committee seems silly to me because of the fact that we do need to open up voting rights in this state. We do have things like gerrymandering. We have all of these bills that are being passed on the federal level. And, you know, in the state of Wisconsin, we talk about the drop boxes all of the time. And we do have 4 elections. One is already passed in this state. We have 3 more coming up. So why are we not passing more bills to open up voting and make it easier? It's a democratic right. It's how people voice their decisions and shape their communities, their schools, their taxes, their future. And instead, we're just bogging it down even more and making it more difficult.
Well, that's the answer is the infuriating part of all of this, and that's what I want to hear from you at 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Does it make you mad that just because nobody wanted to be on the committee, that the Senate is not doing their job? That's unacceptable. It should be unacceptable to every voter. It should be unacceptable to other members of the Senate. It should be unacceptable to the governor. You should have to have these committees. You should have to have them staffed. Hey, we've all been on committees where we have to, you're volunteered to be the head of the committee. And is it a hassle? Sure it is. But your job for the limited amount of time you are in session, they're done March 19th. Yeah. Senate is done. The Assembly's already gone. The limited amount of time, put up with the hassle for 3 months. Seriously. So that's the bigger issue. Not that we do need all those things you talked about for the votes and for our right to vote. But the fact is, the people we elected aren't doing their jobs.
Yes. And it's interesting because, we all go to work every day, and how many tasks are we asked to do that we just don't really want to? We don't maybe like to do. We don't really get that opportunity. Tom from Hartford chiming in saying, lazy, ? It kind of, yes. I'm not going to deny that doesn't kind of appear to be the case. I mean, for years, we've watched the lawmakers in this state and all across the country debate rules about who can vote, how absentee ballots should be processed, how early voting works, when we should start counting, what identification people have to show. And instead of actually putting those things to the test, having those discussions, they're just going to not choose to do their job or do anything about any of it, and then continue to blame the process, not on the fact that they just chose to not do the job this year, which
it's too much of a hassle.
I mean, that seems not.
That's a child's excuse. It's too hard. Yeah. That's not an excuse for elected officials, for adults who supposedly have responsible jobs outside of their roles in the assembly. It does get at some point, you just figuratively want to grab people by the collar and shake them and go, you don't get to say that. This is not, you don't have that choice.
Right. Absolutely. Dean, over on the text line, listening on WCFW 93.5 The Tap, asking who the reporter was. That is Alex Shur. To answer your question, he works at Votebeat. That is votebeat.org. So if you want to check out more of his work, he does report on a lot of things like elections, what our elected officials are doing, and how they're actually making the voting process easier for all of us, which in this case seems like, I mean, I don't want to say it, but it kind of seems like they don't care if they just don't want to do the job,
Nobody
Brian.
cares. No. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's nice to be in a job where you can just say that. I don't care. I'm not doing it.
Oh,
all right.
It seems hard. I don't want to do that this time around. I'm going to start saying that. It's 7:48 right now. You are listening to Daybreak. I'm Jamie Martinson.
Hey, you're going to lose some sleep this weekend, and not for the reasons you think.
Wisconsin wakes up here. Back to Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
It's 7:52 right now, and I got to tell you, I'm having a bit of a conundrum. I think I got it figured out. Every computer screen in front of me just wanted to do an update. That was scary.
Oh, my God.
That was a little scary. Like, I got a little clammy and sweaty because I was like, no, this is not the opportune time to do so.
The perfect time. The whole system just said,
we're good.
No, you're done.
We're good.
Thanks,
We're good,
Hal.
Just, I saw those come up instantaneously. I was able to divert those till another time. We're good to go.
Was that Daybreak by Barry Manilow, by the way?
Well, yes, it was.
Oh,
I knew it. Thank you, Parker.
Very nicely done, Parker.
Thank
7:53
you.
right now. Daybreak for Daybreak on the Civic Media Network. And Brian,
yeah.
we might get are we going to get some extra sleep? Is this I never know. Are we?
This is not the weekend. We are springing forward, Jamie. We are losing sleep. Daylight saving time.
The one where I get sleep.
Don't come at me with daylight savings time. That is incorrect. I am a grammar Nazi.
It is
saving time. Clocks are springing forward. Tomorrow night, Sunday morning, set the clocks before you go to bed Saturday night. That's the best way to ensure that you're not late for things on Sunday. Unless you don't have anything to do on Sunday, then put the clocks under the bed and get them Sunday night before you go to work on Monday. Because, yes, it starts tomorrow. That's, daylight let's dispel a myth, can we?
Okay.
About
yes,
daylight
please.
saving time? Because there was something, it's a common misconception that it had to do with farmers. Everything gets blamed on the farmers.
Right.
High grocery prices, blame the farmers. There's that blame daylight saving time, blame the farmers. So supposedly it was so that farmers would have more time to work in the fields. But it has nothing to do with that. The agriculture industry is actually fervently opposed. That means they really don't like it, to daylight saving time. That, according to the Library of Congress, which I'm sure is full of woke books that are full of disinformation. But for now, the Library of Congress still has a lot of good information in it.
They do.
So it starts, clocks will jump forward about between 2 and 3 a.m. on Sunday morning, meaning that we're going to have more light in the evening, less light in the morning. But we ask this every year, and you can answer it now. Should we get rid of daylight saving time? It's a simple question, yes or no.
Right.
Let us know at 855-75-CIVIC. We'll all be tired on, because this, Jamie, sleep experts. What do they have to say about this? They don't like it, right?
Well, no, and in fact, it actually messes with the body's internal clock, right? When you're messing with the time like that, because the American Academy of Sleep Medicine said that the United States should eliminate seasonal time changes in favor of a national fixed year-round time because it disrupts the circadian rhythms of the human body, and the abrupt time change has been linked to things like a higher risk of mood disorders and heart diseases, according to the organization, because, again, just like the Library of Congress, they might be too woke and not actually know anything.
Well, all right. Listen, you know how I feel about people saying things are woke. And I don't think this is woke. I'm confused. And this is a me problem, not an Academy of American Academy of Sleep. It's an hour. It's not like jet lag where it's 5, 6, 7 hours. It's an hour. Couldn't you just remedy this by going to bed an hour earlier Saturday night or sleeping an hour later on Sunday?
You could.
I don't know how people say they're so messed up from the time change. I'm like, you must get a lot of sleep, because I don't have that kind of reaction because, again, 60 minutes.
Right. I don't get messed up from the time change itself. I get messed up from the fact that depending on the schedule, which obviously we go to bed a little bit earlier and we get up a lot earlier than a lot of people because of our hours, I get messed up when it's just like the daylight thing. If there's just a little bit of light, my body's like, nah, I can't. I'm not going to bed right now. I remember when I worked in TV way back in the day, I did the morning shift, which means I went in at 1 a.m. And so I was trying to go to bed when it was like 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things where, for me personally, I'm a little sensitive to those things. I know not everybody is, but I am very sensitive to just the adjustment of the light and things like that. Alicia's saying to get rid of daylight saving time completely over on our social media conversation.
But then Tom in Hartford comes in on the text line. My vote is hold the line on daylight saving time year round, meaning more evening sun all year. So that's the thing. And I get you. And you hear third shifters have a big problem with their internal clock. And when I worked overnights, it was the same way. And it will be hard now getting up early just because I want to stay up when it's light out late at night. I want to be out on the deck. I want to be outside, but I have to do that. John in Oshkosh says time change is annoying, but not the end of the world. Trump is working on that one just fine.
That's right.
Touche, John. Very nice. Very nicely done. The only person whose internal clock not affected by this, interestingly enough, Flava Flav, because his clock's on the outside.
His clock's on the outside.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other thing that I found just annoying about the time change.
That was just for Parker.
Is the fact that my dog does not have an internal clock, and so her hours are always going to be her hours, so that just gets annoying. Tiffany in River Falls chiming in, listening on 93.5 The Tap, says, death to daylight savings, make standard permanent. Daylight saving all year long means sunrise close to 9 a.m. in the winter. Hawaii and most of Arizona, by the way, the only two states that do not observe daylight saving time. They remain on the standard time year-round, just in case anybody's wondering. Tom says that I'm sensitive. You're right, I am sensitive.
Jamie's got a lot going on in her brain. She doesn't have time to deal with having to also change her circadian rhythms.
No, forget it.
I can't wait. I'm going out tonight to show off my circadian rhythms. Maybe a little mambo. Parker, listen. We got to take some joy when we can. And if because guess what? We're going right back into horror stories about more Wisconsinite losing their health insurance. So if I have to dance for 10 seconds, are you not entertained?
We're always entertained. Always entertained. 7:59 right now. This is Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Everyone's sound asleep.
Across the state of Wisconsin, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie is back.
It's 8:06 right now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Happy Friday. We love being able to say that because even in the midst of a lot of not great news over the course of the last few days, we can always celebrate the fact that we are all ready for a weekend. My name is Jamie Martinson.
Good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. Are you being affected is your insurance being affected? Are you about to lose Medicaid coverage? Let us know why and let us know what you're going to do to try to fix that situation that you're in. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. I ask you that because Wisconsin could see tens of thousands of residents lose Medicaid coverage because of new federal policy changes take effect under the one big, beautiful bill. Some analyses estimate about 276,000 Wisconsinites could lose health coverage by 2034 when Medicaid cuts are combined with Affordable Care Act changes and new eligibility rules. And that's Rand Health has done a new analysis, and they estimate that state Medicaid budgets will be reduced by about $665 billion, that's nationwide, over the next decade due to funding cuts in President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Well, there's more good news in case of war. You were thinking, a war's pretty bad, but it could be worse. Oh, we got a new mixed martial artist heading Department of Homeland Security. It could be worse. How about we throw in you might not have health insurance anymore? Does that rise to the level of, please stop?
I mean, really, at this point, we're looking at 1 in 5 residents relying on Medicaid for their health care coverage, meaning policy changes are going to affect a large portion of this population here in Wisconsin and across the country. And when you think about it, I know this administration likes to pile on the fact that some of these programs like SNAP, Medicaid are only for poor people. They want the rolls from each of the states so that they can see how many illegal immigrants are taking these services, and that's not actually true, because these coverages like Medicaid affect low-income families, they're affecting children, they're affecting seniors in long-term care, they're affecting people with disabilities. You're talking about small business owners, you're talking about farming families, you're talking about families who have two parents who are working but still can't afford the health care. So you're not just talking about the poorest of the poor or immigrants. You are talking about all swaths of people in all walks of life who just need a little help in order to have health insurance. And I know you like to tell me that I'm Pollyanna with my rose-colored glasses, but I believe that healthcare, good healthcare or basic healthcare, is a fundamental right for people in this country.
I do as well, and it infuriates me that it's not. But as we talked about earlier in the show, when the president said he didn't care and wasn't concerned about the rising gas prices, this administration does not concern itself with that type of issue. That's an empathetic human issue. It's part of the culture war. It's easy to spin and make it a talking point. Like you say, we target these are the people that are using this, and it's not true, but it doesn't matter. You repeat a lie enough till it becomes the truth. Mm-hmm. And they don't care. They don't have to worry about it. So if they don't have to worry about it, they don't worry about it for anybody else. It's every person for themselves in this current climate, and that includes healthcare, which is a worldwide shame on this country for not, we are so developed and we have so much going on in this country, and yet we can't meet people's simplest needs, or at least give them help to meet it on their own.
Right.
We're doing away with all of that.
And that's the unfortunate part. And when you look at this RAND report, it's actually a little scary as we look ahead to what's to come in the next few years based on what they're finding. Because most of us know that Medicaid is a public health insurance program, right? Which means it's funded by the federal and state governments. And when federal funding drops, like it's going to because of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, that means that the states either have to cover more of the cost themselves, they have to cut services, or they have to reduce enrollment completely. And you look at some of these states where you have a great number of people using Medicare or Medicaid and Medicare, and I look at states that, and I don't want to pick on them, but we're looking at states that primarily vote for this particular president. We're talking about the red voting states.
Yes, you're right.
And when you talk about that, you are talking about people who are going to be affected in the most basic possible way. We're talking about not being able to get medicine. We're talking about not being able to go to the doctor for some of those illnesses that obviously need some sort of check, right? And so that's a fundamental right that we should be given. And this RAND report estimates that the federal government, this is what's mind-boggling, will save about $714 billion between 2025 and 2034 from the changes that were implemented because of the Big Beautiful Bill Act. Where's that money going?
Well, I think we know the answer in the short term to that. And when you look at that's an unbelievably high number. But when you look at what we're spending right now every day for this war that Donald Trump got us into, it's nothing. It's like a day.
Yeah.
So, see, this is where, and I don't try to pick on people who voted for this administration. But when there was all this talk about Obamacare, which is another way they spun it to make it easy to blame, people didn't understand that the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare were the same thing. And you're right. And that was across the country. But in these predominantly red areas where people had supported this administration, they voted against their own self-interest, and then they were surprised. And I'm not making a judgment on the people. You can do
Right.
that yourself, or they can do that themselves, of why they were lured into believing something that was going to hurt them. But at least on the Democratic side, I do believe that most of us think that healthcare doesn't see politics. Healthcare doesn't care who you voted for.
Mm-hmm.
When people are sick, if you're really sick, you'll go to a doctor. You don't care who they voted for. If you need medicine, you don't care who, if the pharmacy tech was of a different party, or if the manufacturer was of a different party. You want that health care, and you also don't want to worry that when you get sick, not only that you're going to get better, but that you're going to be bankrupted. That should be the last thing you have to worry about. That getting sick is going to ruin your entire life and your family's life.
Right. When you look at this RAND Health analysis, you mentioned it. By 2034, about 7.6 million fewer people are expected to be enrolled in Medicaid nationwide because of some of the new rules and these funding changes that are going to take place. One major factor that is being analyzed right now is some of these new federal work requirements for some Medicaid recipients, which are expected to reduce the number of people eligible for the program. Mm-hmm. This law also limits the use of provider taxes. And if you're not familiar with that, that's a financing strategy that a lot of states use to draw down additional federal Medicaid funding. That limits the option, though, and will force some states to dip into their general budgets to make up the difference. Now, some states don't have $2.4 billion sitting in a surplus like the state of Wisconsin currently has, and million, by the way. I said billion with a B, but it is million. I'll correct myself on the air. And we're going to see some states who are going to be impacted differently. So, for example, Brian, Arizona, Iowa, and Nevada could see Medicaid budgets fall by more than 15%. California, New York will see the largest total dollar losses, about $112 billion and $63 billion respectively. Notice, yeah, right? There's
well, because your home state, your former home state,
yes,
is on the other side of the spectrum, which is
are
odd. So let tell me that, and then we'll see. Then we'll compare. Let's do a side by side.
Yes. So Tennessee, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Kentucky, they could see actually see more than a 2% in general fund savings, largely because fewer people will be enrolled in Medicaid. And then states like you mentioned it, South Dakota and Wyoming could even see slight budget increases due to additional rural health funding, which is going to be included in this law. Now, here's the thing that I keep thinking about. Two things, right?
Yes.
Hospitals and clinics all across the state of Wisconsin already rely heavily on Medicaid reimbursements. And by the way, in the state of Wisconsin, we call it Badger Care. So don't be confused. If you're on Badger Care, we're talking about you.
Yeah.
Rural hospitals in particular depend on that funding to keep their doors open. And health policy experts say that when Medicaid funding drops, those rural systems often are the first to feel the pressure. We already have a deficit in healthcare in our rural areas. So what is going to happen in the state of Wisconsin when we see this kind of decrease in Medicaid funding, and now all of a sudden we're losing even more healthcare systems across the state? The other thing I want to point out is if you have private health insurance and you think you're going to be safe from any sort of premium hikes because, I don't have Badger Care, I don't need the state to help me, I don't need the government to help me, who do you think is going to pay for the people going in who have absolutely no health insurance? It's going to be the people with private health insurance, because those prices have to then increase to help the offset for the medical health, for the medical system.
And if you don't think that that's going to be a talking point for certain people, look at all these freeloaders now that are having to go, and you go in uninsured and you're paying for it, and it's just another way to target a them. We always need to have an enemy, a them. And so suddenly it'll be the people whose Medicaid was cut and now they don't have insurance. Well, illness doesn't care if you have insurance or not. If you're going to get sick, you're going to get sick. And, but it'll be easy then to blame them. It's it's hard to see, and especially you mentioned Wisconsin, and we've talked a lot about rural hospitals and rural, first of all, just the lack of doctors in these rural areas. And then it gets down now the lack of any medical professionals in some of these rural areas, and clinics and hospitals having to close. And even if some hospitals stay open, their services now are much more limited. So you're still, you might be able to go to an emergency room, but you better hope it's not really serious, because your local place isn't going to be able to do it. And then you're going to have to be either transported by yourself or be transported, and then just watch the costs go up, 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 up.
I mean, there are people who drive over an hour just to see a doctor. And then there are people that, because, as you're mentioning, these hospitals are understaffed, you wait hours to see somebody when you're sick or you have some sort of emergency. And they have to prioritize people coming in their doors of who's most serious to who's least serious. Well, how do you know that? You don't know what they have because you don't actually have the people to see them. Healthcare is not a luxury. This isn't some sort of luxury good. It's not some sort of luxury product. And I'm so tired of having the discussions about basic needs like healthcare and food as some sort of bureaucratic hoop that you have to jump through. I mean, these are things that you should not be expected to jump through. They're basic necessities in life. And this
Jamie,
is something...
if you deserve to eat and be healthy, you should have pulled yourself up by your bootstraps like me, have your dad give you $1 million loan, and that's how we do it. That's how we become successful, not losers and suckers. That's it.
We need these things to live and work and raise our families, but, I digress. Whatever. It's 8:19 right now. You are listening to Daybreak. I am Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. Question for after. In your opinion, why do you think Trump treats the deaths of military members in such a cavalier manner? We'll get to your thoughts on that.
Want to join in on the conversation? Call or text 855-75-CIVIC. Now back to Brian and Jamie.
It's 8:22 right now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I am Jamie Martinson.
Oh, and I'm Brian Noonan. Hey, how are you? It's Friday. I was listening to a little Creedence, a little Fortunate Son. I'm here. I'm just in the groove, man, because it's Friday.
It's Friday.
And we have to talk about something that is that I wish we didn't have to talk about. We've never had to talk about it before. The way a president tonally discusses the deaths of U.S. service members. We know, unfortunately, to this point, that 6 American service members have already been killed in the war with Iran. From the start, the president has acknowledged that American casualties were a possibility, and he's done it in a way that has not really ingratiated himself to the American public. And I can only imagine the military, and that's why I want to know whether you're in the military or not. In your opinion, why do you think that the president treats the deaths of military members in such a cavalier manner? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. So when he spoke about the dead and wounded service members, he does it very bad. It's not... I'm sure he has skills. I haven't seen them, but this is definitely not one of them. And it is a real blind spot, and now we're seeing it up close. And there was this came about because we both saw this very interesting analysis on CNN yesterday, and we're thinking about it. And it just, did you ever think, Jamie, you'd live in a country where we had to worry that our president was not being respectful enough and treating the death of our service members as just the cost of doing business?
No, but let's be honest. Since he came into public light, this president has not been kind to service members, right? Past, living, dead. I mean, he has. It's worth remembering, all right? Very, very quickly. Back in 2015, he mocked Senator John McCain for being a prisoner of war, saying he preferred people who weren't captured. There were reports from his own former staff that he referred to fallen American soldiers as losers and suckers. Obviously, that sparked outrage among veteran groups. He's publicly attacked decorated military leaders who disagreed with him, including generals who spent decades serving this country. And he's also questioned the service of Gold Star families who lost
lost loved ones in combat. So this is not new. What we're hearing this week
it's not new.
is
It's
not
still
new.
though.
It's gross, though.
It's still gross. Yeah, gross is a good term for it. It's gross. And now it's not only him, but it's Pete. But just in case you're thinking, hey, Brian and Jamie, why are you always trying to make the president look bad? Maybe we should just let him talk and so we can judge for ourselves. Okay, that's fine. How about cut 8, Parker?
And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case.
Obviously referring to the deaths of the service members already in this war in the Middle East.
That's
so
the way
far,
it is, Jamie. They're there.
6 so far, many wounded, seriously wounded as well. But they're noble. He's called them noble. He's told them they're giving up a sacrifice for their country.
But also they equate it with a holy war, that they're basically doing they're doing the Lord's work. Now, Alicia, who's jumping in on socials, we know is a veteran, and she says he views our service members as tools, not people. Yeah, there's no humanity when he talks about them. He says what he thinks people want to hear, but you can tell by the way he says it. And I have this argument with my daughter all the time. It's not what you say sometimes, it's how you say it. And to say, listen, everybody knows that in a military conflict or in a war, there is a chance that service members will die. But to say, that's just the way it is flippant and disrespectful. And it's, I am out of touch. I am the king, and I'm sending these people into battle for me, and they will. Yes, some of you will not come back, and I'm sure, every military member in the back of their mind has that inkling, but they do the job anyway, and they deserve to be covered when their names deserve to be read. And that's what Pete Hegseth yesterday said he doesn't want to happen.
Right. And this was during a press briefing at the Pentagon. And the defense secretary actually criticized the media for supposedly focusing too much on the dead soldiers in an effort to make the president, quote unquote, look bad. And he actually suggested that those deaths were getting disproportionate play compared to the military successes. This is cut 9.
This is what the fake news misses. We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality. The terms of this war will be set by us at every step.
How narcissistic do you have to be to believe that because we are reporting the names of American service members who have been killed in a war that the majority of this country does not want to be in because you haven't told us why we're actually there? How dare you think that this is about you? What are you talking about? The press has always covered the deaths of American service people.
That's their job. That's journalism. It's the job. And sometimes the job is hard. And you can say what you want about the press, but sometimes they have to report hard facts.
And if it makes you look bad, that's the what you signed up for, brother.
This isn't a political hit job. When the press reports on casualties, when they're reporting on the consequences of military action or the risks of escalating a conflict, they're doing what they're supposed to do by telling the public what is actually happening.
Local voices, statewide impact. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
It's 8:35 right now. Very good choice of music, Parker, because that is perfect going into this next segment. Because, Brian, we are going to drop the political talk because, thank God, we need to. It's
Friday.
And we're going to talk about something we can all agree on. I don't care how you vote. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on. We can all agree that pie, Brian, is absolutely delicious. And
there's no doubt about it. Pie bridges all gaps.
It does.
And we got it. Pie Day is coming up, the 14th. But we're not talking math. We're talking real pie, and the only person qualified to come here and talk real pie with us is Beth Howard. She is the pie lady. She is the author of 4 books. Her new award-winning documentary, Piowa, A Piece of America, is out now. BethHoward.com is her website. Beth, thanks for being here. So many questions about pie. Let's start with the foundation. Every good pie comes down to being judged by the crust. Now you've got the regular crust, graham cracker crust, but for a regular flaky pie crust that you'd see in your apple pie, your cherry pie, that kind of thing, what is the secret? Because people get lazy, they buy the pre-rolled stuff. But what's the secret for a really good pie crust?
I would say butter. Butter is the secret. It's the flavor. And also butter mixed with lard or mixed with Crisco, like a vegetable shortening. Because then you get the taste, the butter flavor, and then the lightness of the other half of whatever you choose to use, the other fat. And a light touch, like it's not bread. So, you don't need it. It's just very, very quick. You can make it with your hands, and you just kind of fluff the water in with the dough, and you're not like pushing on it. So I would say that's it. In my film, there's an award-winning pie maker who she's won all these ribbons at the state fair. She says you have to be frustrated with your dough when you're rolling it out. If you're not frustrated, you've put too much water in it. So like there's this this supposed rule about don't put too much water in your pie crust. And I always tell people, like, don't worry about that. That's not the worst thing you could do. And also, I don't want to be frustrated when I'm rolling my pie dough. I was
going to say, that sounds like too much work.
Yeah.
If you get frustrated.
She is, I have to say, she is right that you will get a lighter, flakier crust. But I'm like, I would just rather take the stress out of it. And, it doesn't make my crust hard. It just doesn't fall apart, but it's all good. It doesn't matter. And also when you make a homemade pie and share it with somebody, nobody cares. Nobody's judging you.
Right.
No one is judging how, you put too much water in your dough. No one is going to judge you.
Unless you have that woman over and then she's constantly judging, but that's why I don't invite her over.
So when it comes to making the perfect pie crust, right, or the pie crust that we feel like is perfect for ourselves, do we need any sort of special tools for that? I mean, can we use basic things that we have in our kitchen? What would you recommend for the pie novices out there? Because I'll be honest, I'm usually a pre-made pie crust person because I don't trust my own skills. So I want to get better at this. So I want you to teach me.
Okay, so first of all, in my film, Jan Miller, the food editor from Better Homes and Gardens, says it's okay to use a cheater crust, and she puts it in there. So just first of all, take the pressure off yourself. No one's going to judge you. But what would be what was your question? Your advice?
The tools. It's good. So what should we be using?
The tools. Yeah. So, I travel a lot and I make pie in random kitchens and they don't always have the tools. So I always say, first of all, your best tools are your own 2 hands. You make the dough and you don't even need a bowl, actually. You can make a pile of flour on the table and mix it all in. It's interesting how little you really actually need. A rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, I've used a wine bottle or any kind of, big glass bottle. And there is one tool, though, that I really like. And I get it from the dollar store, and it costs like $1.25 for this. It's called a bench scraper in the technical food terms, but it's a little rectangle piece of metal that helps you lift the dough off of the counter. And that is, for me, essential. That's my favorite tool. Everything else I could do without, with the tools.
Okay.
But that little scraper is super helpful. And then you nudge a little flour underneath as you're trying to lift it, because the butter will kind of melt onto the rolling surface and get sticky. So you want to help lift that off without ripping your dough, because that's one of the things that makes people upset when I can't make my own dough because it sticks. But that's a way to help keep it, to get it off the counter and use the extra flour to help keep it from sticking.
Beth Howard is our guest. She is the pie lady. You could go to theworldneedsmorepie.com, because if you go there, you'll learn all of these tricks, you'll learn recipes, and you'll learn all about Piowa, Piece of America, the new award-winning documentary that is out. And I love the poster for it, American Gothic, but they're eating some cherry pie, which is great. I, Beth, enjoy the graham cracker crust, whether it's on a key lime pie, a pecan pie, any of those. What's the biggest mistake people make? Because sometimes you get a graham cracker crust and it is phenomenal, and other times, boy, they fall short. What's the biggest mistake we make when we're trying to do
Well,
that?
what's your definition of falling short? What do you mean? It falls apart?
Where it tastes,
or it's too tough?
well, it's very crumbly, and it also tastes almost like, I guess, be overcooked might be the problem, because it gets that burnt sugar kind of taste to it.
Well, the way I make it, and my partner, he makes key lime pie all the time, so he's become like an expert at the graham cracker crust, and he's been experimenting. He puts extra butter in it, and he uses brown sugar in the crust instead of a little white sugar. And I sometimes don't put any sugar in it just because graham crackers are already sweet, but the brown sugar almost kind of helps hold the cracker crumbs together a little bit better. And then, you press it down into the dish firmly, but I think it's, between the butter and the brown sugar, those would be my
butter
two
seems to be the key. Cardiologists must love you.
Oh yeah. Butter. And I mean, who doesn't love butter, the combo of butter and brown sugar? That's right there. I just makes me want a graham cracker crust right now.
There are certain recipes that ask you to do a pre-bake of those graham cracker crusts when you make them at home. Is that something you recommend? Or
Yeah, I do. Like, I think 10, 20 minutes, something like that. It's, it's not too long. It's just enough to kind of firm it all up, the butter and the sugar, and hold it all together. Yeah, it's good.
Our senior producer, Frank, has actually gone to the text line. He's foregone talking to us directly. He's gone to the text line. He says he messes up his dough, his pie crust all the time. And you mentioned before, sometimes it's better to do butter with a little bit of lard or shortening in there. Is there a ratio? Is it better to mix that in rather than go straight butter?
Yeah, I find it makes a lighter, flakier crust to mix them. Sometimes when I make an all butter crust, it just comes out tough. And I don't know. I really just don't know why. And, and the other thing is, like, every ingredient, every brand is different, right? Different brands of butter have different moisture contents, different shortenings have different consistencies. So it can't be an exact science. You have to work with what you have. I don't know. So I would want to know what his issue is with his crust. Is it falling apart when he's trying to roll it? Is it too hard? If it's too hard to work with, then you overworked the dough, and it's you released all this gluten, and then it's just too tough to work. And sometimes you do actually have to start over. If you've overworked it, there's no going back. Keeping a very light touch when you're mixing it, and then adding enough water so it holds together while you're rolling it without it just being a crumbling mess. And that's pretty much it. And, use enough flour when you sprinkle your rolling surface on the top of the dough and underneath so that it doesn't stick. The ratios, though, it's for a standard 2-crust pie, it's 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, half a cup butter, and half a cup of whatever fat or, shortening or lard. So half. Is
there a brand you prefer? Because you said every butter is different, every shortening is different. Is there a brand that you like?
I'm always on the move. Every place I go has different brands, and I'm not fussy. And, I just keep coming back to this thing, as we complicate our world and complicate our recipes, and then we have to make everything Instagram worthy. And it's just the pioneers made pie. Okay. Yeah. The pioneers, and they did not have all the fancy shops and the fancy brands, and they weren't importing their fruit all wrapped individually in paper. And you're just stop, people, just let's go back to the basics. And that's what drew me to pie. Is I had this big .com job, and I was creating virtual worlds, and I'm like, I just want to go work with my hands. And that's the beauty of pie making. It engages your senses, and it takes you out of this high-tech, isolated world we live in, and it brings you back into the kitchen where you're using your hands and you're making something that's so satisfying, and then you share it with others, and they are so excited that it's this win-win cycle. It's just not that hard to go in the kitchen, make a pie. It takes time. I think that's the thing that I think recipients of your pie appreciate the most. They realize that you took the time to make something for them, or for your group, or wherever you're sharing it, and that's the part that is so meaningful. And I have a 97-year-old woman in my film who says that exact thing. It's the time you put into it. So
yeah.
That's awesome. We're talking with Beth Howard. She is a pie expert. She's an author. She's a blogger. She has a new documentary film. She is essentially the pie lady. TheWorldNeedsMorePie.com. Now, we got to talk about what's inside the crust. We spent a lot of time talking about the crust, but what makes, if we're talking about a fruit pie, right? I'm going to be doing a little taste testing of the cherry pie since cherries are such a big part of Wisconsin's farming industry all around our listening area. So what should we be looking for, and what fruits are the best inside our pies if we're making those at home, Beth?
I always say the best fruit is what's in your backyard. that's my take. Like whatever's fresh and local, that's when I get really excited about putting in my pie. I love riding my bike over to my neighbor's monster rhubarb patch, and I fill my bike basket with her rhubarb. And go pick your own cherries. How cool is that, right? Then you really kind of have more of a connection to your food. So the fresher the better, in my opinion. Should be ripe, obviously, but I definitely have a big preference for the homegrown stuff.
What may I know you're? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I'm not an expert on cherries. That's not personally my favorite pie, and but you guys also have great apples in Wisconsin.
We do.
Don't discount that.
So you're from Iowa. You started your pie journey in Iowa. What makes Iowa a good subject? And we only have a couple minutes for the new documentary, Piewa.
Well, Iowa just seems to be known for pie. My film kicks off with the fact that I got this pie baking job in Malibu and I had no qualifications. And I said, I'm from Iowa, and I got the job. So
nice.
That was like the launching point into this film, going, why is that? Like, what is it about Iowa that people automatically think that you make pie because you're from Iowa? And, basically the answer that I heard numerous times in my interviews with people is like, well, it's because it's a farming state. And, traditionally the farm wives and the church ladies, they would always be making pies for their farmers in the field and for their, Sunday lunch on the porch. People stop by and have a slice of pie. It's just this kind of it's part of the culture. It just is. And probably because of that being an agricultural state like Wisconsin, where you have a lot of produce around and you have a lot of things you can put in a pie. And anyway, you can put absolutely anything in a pie. So
now I want to go get a pie right after we're done.
Well,
talking.
if you see my movie, that's the one thing people are like, your movie made me so hungry for pie. Like they're like desperately hungry for pie. And I'm like, that's good. Go make one.
Then you have done your
share it with
job.
somebody else. Yeah.
And if you want to learn more about the film and everything else from Beth, please go to theworldneedsmorepie.com. And especially in this day and age, that website domain name could not be more true. Beth Howard, the Pie Lady, thank you for joining us this morning. It was a pleasure. Have a great weekend.
We're going to milk this for all it's worth. It's Dairyland Diaries, a look at local stories around Wisconsin.
It's 8:52 right now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. You are listening to Daybreak on the Civic Media Network. Oh, that's fun. That's the perfect quintessential Dairyland Diaries intro for the state of Wisconsin. And
that is.
I'm very excited. This is second week doing this, but it's one of my favorite segments already.
Well, good. I'm glad you like it. It is it's meant to be uplifting stories from around the state, and that's what we go for. And because today I am nothing if not a champion of women, because we are in International Women's History Month, all of the Dairyland Diary stories center around the ladies. So let's get started. Right down the street at UW-Madison, they have a dance major. Now, you may not think of UW-Madison as a dance school, and you would have been in the same company as President Edward Burge. He did not want the university to be known as a dance school, but it seemed to be going that direction after PE teacher Margaret Hudubler began teaching dance in 1918. At that time, the idea of studying dance was almost unheard of. But in 1926, UW-Madison became host to the nation's first dance major. I know that's what Parker minored in. When Doubler began teaching at UW-Madison in 1910, she taught phys ed. She taught women's sports, and women's phys ed was undergoing a big change. Physicians, Jamie, this will make you happy. Physicians were finally recognizing the benefits of exercise for women, refuting the popular belief that strenuous physical activity was bad for a woman's health and could lead to infertility, because we know you are prone to the vapors. So we didn't want anything happening to you. Whoo, I feel a vapor coming on. She, Doubler, was initially charged with teaching women's sports, and then she started teaching dance. And while UW-Madison is today a research institution, unlike at a conservatory for the arts, the students in the dance program are often studying other subjects. But now the dance classes became so popular in Doubler's days, and I'm probably saying that name wrong, and I apologize. They were attracting 300 to 500 students each year. Now there's so many, and starting this fall, the program will be launching 2 Masters in Fine Arts degree programs for dance. One of them is in screen dance, a hybrid art form between dance and film, where the dance is choreographed specifically for the camera. So who knew that UW-Madison...
Incredible.
First in the nation for a dance major. Don't you wish you had a leotard on right now, Parker, and could plie for us?
Oh, I could plie.
Oh, challenge.
Even in jeans, he could plie. I love it. We're going to move a little further north
Yes.
in these Dairyland Diaries, because this is also a great story. Denise Flaherty, who is 72, she's a retired corporate worker who now lives on a farm in Baldwin, Wisconsin. She doesn't speak any Spanish. She has no background in social work or immigration law. She has actually stepped into a really major role, though, in her community, because she's helping immigrant families as federal immigration enforcement has increased. Now, Flaherty says that she can drive through Baldwin and point out homes that are now empty because residents have either been detained by federal immigration agents, they've moved out out of fear, or they've returned to their home countries. In response to these actions, she now spends most of her days helping the families who remain, many of whom are afraid to leave their homes or even drive anywhere. These are stories we're hearing across the country, but she helps with everyday needs. She goes out and buys them groceries, deposits money at the bank. She takes the kiddos to school. She drives people to court hearings, and she does this through group chats and messaging apps. She also coordinates volunteers who want to help with some of these tasks, like rides to doctors or dentist appointments, or even distributing some of this food. Now, Denise says that she doesn't track immigration agents and focuses only on helping the families, but she still believes that federal agents know who she is. In fact, she says the agents have been to her home before, and after witnessing a recent detention outside of a Mexican grocery store in the city of Baldwin, she says an agent actually called out her name and tried to question her. She left without speaking to him. And since then, she says that she has had to change the car that she drives, but she still continues helping those immigrant families in her community every single day.
Bravo, bravo, Denise.
That's like local heroism on a everyday level.
Quickly, we go to Door County, where Genevieve Hayward has advanced to the top 30 on American Idol. Yes, she's off to Hawaii. She's an indie rock artist. She grew up in Lake Geneva. She has deep ties to Door County. She made it through Hollywood Week. Now she's going on. In Hollywood Week, she performed Brandi Carlile's The Story, and now she is moving on to the top 30 to Hawaii. That round will air this Monday, March 9th. So if you want to support a local girl on American Idol, there you go. Jamie, I think you can squeeze in this last one, at least part of it.
I think I can get in some of this. Yes, so 3 Washington middle school counselors, Sandra Gavin, Jessica McCullough, and Charles Gill, received the Program of Promise Award from the Wisconsin School Counselor Association for their work, including help with the high school credit course. Students at this Green Bay middle school who were taking high school credit courses weren't passing, and so these counselors wanted to find a way to help them be successful. The counselors focused on that high school credit class because students students chose to take it and push themselves, and those students have showed self-motivation, and those counselors wanted to meet them at that advanced level, which is super, super cool. McCullough says winning this award reassures her that she's doing meaningful work that supports students academically and emotionally. This also goes on to say in an email response that it's a great feeling to be recognized for hard work and dedication.
There you go.
That is
and I had to leave Charles Gill's name in there, even though he's not a lady, but he was part of it. He was a third of that. So there you go, a women-focused edition of Dairyland Diaries. Hopefully those are stories that leave you with a little buoyancy in your heart, a little spring in your step, and at least not the oppression of the other news that we've heard. We wrap up the week with those. Every week. We've done it 2 times. So
go enjoy these stories with a little buoyancy in your heart where you enjoy some pie. Because that's how you do this.
Good luck on your pie eating contest this weekend, Jamie. I can't wait to hear about it. And that'll be a video coming out near Pie Day, so be able to check that out.
Everybody will be able to find out my pie ventures, so to speak.
Pie ventures. Another great week. We're glad you were part of it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of the program. Jamie, I'm done.
Yeah, it's 8:59. This is Daybreak on the Civic Media Network. Have a wonderful